Hello, and welcome to Mozart of Hoops, a podcast that takes a deep dive into the world of basketball, how we learn to appreciate its beauty, and understand the ebbs and flows of the game. My name is Ian Quinn, and I'm joined by my two co-hosts, Chris and Owen. Chris, how are you doing today?
I'm not too bad. I'm a little tired coming off a vacation hangover, so apologies for the delay in our episode releases, but that's mostly my fault. But I also feel bad for saying Wes Unseld was boring in the last episode, but I feel the way I feel, I guess.
They're all amazing. I'm pretty sure I said Boerwinkle was boring. There was somebody that I disregarded earlier in the podcast that after watching him, I'm pleasantly surprised. So, hope that vacation was good for you, Chris.
Certainly was. Thank you.
All right, Owen, how are you doing?
I am doing great, Ian. Yes, we are recording very late now. Thanks to Chris, just wasting his damn time, sitting on his ass. But I feel good. I feel ready. And you're right. All of these pastors are great, especially Oliver Miller and Yinka Dare.
Yankee
Yankadare, the man with what, the 0 to 71 assist to turnover ratio in one season?
7
Something like
records.
that.
Wilt got
7?
nothing on him.
Yeah, that's true. So, why don't we I've been good, by the way. Nobody asked, but nobody cares.
Normally Owen asks that, yeah.
Yeah. How are you doing, Ian?
I am good. I'm coming off the finals hangover, the playoffs hangover of watching basketball pretty much for I don't even know how long. They all just meshed together in one big day. But yeah, I mean the playoffs were great. There was some blowouts and stuff like that, but the finals were good. My prediction was correct. Golden State wins in 6 because Boston's offense is weird, and that's exactly what happened. Congrats to the Golden State Warriors on their 4th championship in 8 years.
Congratulations to Ian. Congratulations.
Why?
You predicted it.
I did predict it, but I feel like it was a basic prediction. There was
Put
just
that back,
a lot.
man. Pat it hard.
There was a lot to dislike about Boston's offense, and it kind of showed. I think Golden State's overall defense got underrated, and I was not surprised, to say the least, when Boston wasn't generating any offense for a while. So, moving on, we have some more passing bigs to cover. We're gonna try to get through the 1970s today. So why don't we start off first with somebody from the ABA? He made his ABA debut in, I think, 1967, so we're going to go back into the 60s a little bit. But this is somebody that Chris is more familiar with, so why don't you tell us a little bit about Connie the Hawk Hawkins?
Yeah, so Connie Hawkins, unfortunate story because he got a late start in professional basketball. He actually didn't start his first ABA season until he was 25. So I guess we were a little remiss to be slapping him in this episode as opposed to squeezing him into the last one. But he's a little bit more, he's 6'8" and not a traditional, post big. So he actually played 3 positions in the NBA. So, he was kind of a prototypical point forward. So he did a lot more in transition and, handling the ball and being the initiator. And he also had, even though he was only 6'8", he had those go-go gadget arms. So he would go up for a shot and, he could just kind of seem to stretch his arm out. I mean, you could kind of feel like you can do a long 3 count while he's in the air before he kind of dumps off a pass. So sometimes that backfired. Obviously, leaving your feet to pass is never a good idea, but it wasn't like he did that intentionally. It was kind of like, he just was able to pivot out of someone reacting to his shot pretty easily. So not much of a post passer, but he's definitely kind of the anti Wes Unseld.
Yeah, I can agree with that. He was pretty exciting. I think before I watched him, there was only like one like full game of him online, and it was I think in 1970 against the Hawks, who had Maravich and Lou Hudson. So Owen mentioned as almost like a precursor that he's kind of like Kevin Garnett, and I can honestly see that. I really liked his creativity on his passing. I just liked the general area he covered on the offensive floor. So yeah, he was a good passer for sure.
Yeah, and I think actually playing with the Harlem Globetrotters before coming to the ABA really helped kind of stylize his passing. He really had a flair for it. And his hand control was just fantastic. So, like, you could just throw in the ball, you'd catch it with one hand, and then just, like, immediately zip it to somebody cut into the basket. It's just really fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, I wish we got more of him. He was, what was he, blackballed from the ABA and NBA pretty much. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why he got the late start. So yeah, it would have been nice to have seen more of Connie Hawkins in his career because yeah, you know,
Yeah, absolutely. It's very
wasn't
unfortunate, especially
his
there's
prime
there's no
his
peak Connie Hawkins
no
footage.
no, it's very I haven't been able to find anything. There's very rare ABA film out there. So yeah, so
Just one more thing. I mean, like Bill Russell, he's also one of the better transition passers. But it
yep.
also makes sense considering he kind of just slides between forward and big.
Yeah. I remember I was watching this game. It was only like some highlights. But Connie was being interviewed at the end of the game. They're facing the Lakers, I think in 1971, and they asked Connie if he prefers playing forward or if he prefers playing center, and he answered the question that he preferred to play forward. And especially against the Lakers because he didn't want to go down there with Chamberlain, meaning Wilt Chamberlain, of course. So I found that to be kind of funny. He was laughing about it and stuff. But yeah, he was
He's one of the smaller
def
bigs, that's for sure.
yeah, he is. But I do think he can. Yeah, I do think that he's very fringe. Like in terms of not to go back to defining what a big is because we could waste another hour probably on that. But you know, I think he's fringe because he can play the three, but he also can play the five. So, and it just feels kind of even to me in that sense. I don't know what you guys think about that.
I mean, I think he's just a mismatch nightmare kind of.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it
Yeah.
means I can talk about a few other players that I really wanted to talk about. So thanks.
Oh, well, there you go. Magic Johnson gonna be included now.
We'll see.
Silence.
It's not this episode.
All right, so I think we covered Connie pretty well. We got obviously there's not a lot of film of him, so there isn't a lot to talk about in terms of what we have seen. I've only seen just that one game really of him. So why don't we move on to somebody that I'm sure we've all seen a lot of, and that is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. So for Kareem, he's not really thought of as like a passing big in the sense of like where that's the first thing you think of with Kareem. He's obviously an all-time great scorer, all-time offensive player in general. But what I do like about Kareem's passing is it seems like he would fit really well into like a smooth motion offense, where players are constantly running around him and he finds like a cutter or he kicks out. Um, that's a lot of what I noticed when watching Kareem play. I don't know what you guys think. But that's what I kind of saw with him in the games that I saw.
Yeah, he's somebody that is perfect for hunting for cutters. I mean, just due to his height, so you can just
Hmm.
hold that ball way out, and nobody's really gonna get it. Um, really like to work from the high post around the elbows, and if he's not gonna be able to find a cutter, he just will look for the hook shot.
Skyhook. Yep.
So I mean, he just had different options that he was able to kind of weed out due to his offensive gravity.
Yeah, and despite the lack of spacing in that era, just yeah, he's of more so probably even than Wilt even I would say maybe. He's drawing a huge crowd in the post. So I mean, you could watch those games of him like 77, and it's he's basically quadruple teamed almost. So.
Mm-hmm.
He is very good at finding the cutters. I mean, he's a super intelligent guy, obviously. So he knew exactly how to punish a defense exactly. He was for sure looking for his shot and not assist hunting in any sort of a Chamberlain-esque kind of way. But it's more to keep the defense honest. He's going to hit the guy for a little dump off, or he's pretty good at those shovel passes.
Yes, he is.
Like Owen said, yeah, you typically see him, kind of just holding the ball above his head. And he's probably got it, freaking 12 feet up there. So nobody's really getting it. But that's the other thing about those guys, Connie Hawkins too, with those super long arms, it's like the defense, a lot of times, they're taught proper position, keep their arms up. So a lot of opportunities. Kareem and Connie both very good about, wrapping around the bodies of those guys who have their arms up.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves here, but I kind of put Kareem in that category of um like similar to Shaq, where he's drawing that defense towards him so much that he's able to use his vision to be able to get a pass off to the open guy off the double. Um, that's what I saw a lot of Kareem doing. So I think it has a lot to do with his gravity, in terms of how useful his passing can be. And I think it's an important thing because there's a lot of people who get doubled. Um, I've watched some Moses Malone, and he would get doubled, and he really couldn't throw that pass. That wasn't part of his game whatsoever. So to me, like having that added vision that Kareem did, someone like Shaq did, is just an added bonus if you're an all-time great scorer like the both of them are.
Yeah, totally. Well, and I think, with Kareem, you can look at, like you're saying with Shaq. I mean, I think Kareem would be able to leverage his passing, even more in the modern era, or at least, coming up at the same, if he had played in the 90s and early 2000s for sure. Because if you look at, when spacing did improve a little bit, kind of in his later years, because the Lakers would spread it out a little bit more than most teams in the 80s, and he was able to, score at a high level pretty much all the way through. So, I think the fact that if he had more space, he's able to operate easier one-on-one, and then it forces guys to come help exactly the same way they did on Shaq. And Kareem is easily smart enough to find that open guy beyond the three-point line.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
I'm the only thing I'd really add is it's not necessarily a negative, but he did get a bit impatient. So with Kareem, like I said, he was drawing a whole lot of doubles. I mean, he was the focal point of the offense. But you could just tell at times that he would get frustrated with maybe a teammate. Like he saw something that a teammate didn't, and so he would make a pass, and the teammate just wouldn't get there in time. And that's just something you see with Kareem a little bit more than some others. And it's more that he's just seeing things ahead, and it's just a sign of impatience at times, at least early Kareem.
Yeah, I can see that. He I can understand where he would be frustrated, but I do think it's a bit different from somebody like Wilt who had some insane patience that almost was to the detriment, especially in the 70s. I still want
Well,
to watch more of like 60s Wilt.
Well, and that's the thing about him. I mean, it's different for him even. But they all kind of, most of those post scorers go through that. They all go through it. Where they get frustrated. You get really good down there, and you start drawing crowds, and they all get frustrated. They all have to work through that. Like even though Shaq had pretty good vision out of the gate, like he was frustrated early in his career before he really figured out how to, you know, work the defenders and wait until they've passed the point of no return to know exactly when you need to zip the pass out of the double and all that. So it just takes time for guys to to age into that, I guess, and some of them never do, like Moses Malone.
Yeah, and well, I mean, the thing is, I mean, we're talking about passing bigs, and I mean, they're working in those spots in the post, obviously more than any other player. So they're seeing things that no other player is seeing, especially from their vantage
Mm-hmm.
point, like with Kareem. So, I mean, it does get frustrating, like why isn't, so and so, why isn't Lucius Allen cutting right here? Why is he waiting?
Yeah. Yep. Understandable. So I think the next player we can move on to, he played for the Celtics in the 70s. Pretty good passer, good scorer, good defender. Dave Cowens. Does anybody want to say anything about Dave Cowens?
I mean, I think he's very good. He's another really smart guy. And the thing, Dave Cowens is perfect motion system kind of guy because he doesn't stop moving. He's always looking for other people moving. He's always setting screens and doing a lot of that stuff. So I think that's just where a lot of his effectiveness was just from kind of that constant motion and being able to leverage his quickness as a smaller center in the 70s. I think that probably helped him out a lot. Similar to somebody else that we'll talk about here in a little bit, but I think some of that got a little harder against bigger competition. But on one hand, you're kind of forced to look for the pass more or stay further out on the perimeter, which is okay for Cowens because he had a pretty good jump shot too. So, but he definitely was not able to, to find those lanes around some of the longer centers.
Yeah, that is true. And I do like how you pointed out his movement, just both with and without the ball. I mean, he's showing something that a lot of these other bigs don't really get to show, and that he can sometimes almost be the initiator of the offense, sometimes from the perimeter all the way to the basket, but also just work as just somebody who's going to pick a spot. He'll be running around a screen. You'll pass him the ball, and he'll pass it right back to a cutter. He's just somebody that just fits into different parts of the offense, and it's fun to watch.
Yeah, and Dave Cowens, if you've listened to much of him talk or know much about his story, like he is the ultimate gym rat, and like he didn't have an off season basically, and he didn't want one. Like he wanted to play basketball all year round. So like once the NBA ended, he was at Rucker every summer because he said that's he knew that's where the best competition was, and all he cared about was playing against the best players. So he played so much basketball. It's just super obvious, especially by the mid 70s, that he's got a really nice intuitive feel for just the movement in general and kind of when to ad lib and really creative player.
Yeah,
I think he's
until he got
almost
into
in
horse racing, Chris. I think that may have trumped basketball.
Yeah, he did. He had some bumps there.
He was also a Christmas tree salesman.
What?
I didn't know that.
Random Dave
Yeah,
Cowens
when he
facts.
left the Celtics in the mid
That's
70s,
crazy.
Christmas tree salesman.
Interesting. I
He's a giver.
I really enjoyed watching Dave Cowens play. His motor was constantly going. Like he really never stopped moving, and he was almost like a pest out there, like even on defense. Like he reminded me
Especially
of
on
like
defense.
yes, but it reminds me of like how like the revelation of Jose Alvarado this year with the Pelicans. He was like a pest, but he was a guard. It just reminds me of that, but in like a big body. He was constantly going. He's somebody that I think I would put higher on a playmakers list compared to just like straight up passing bigs.
I
Because I
would
think he
agree with
does a lot. Yeah, I think he does a lot more
Yeah.
on
I mean, a lot
offense
of the
than
stuff
just
he does, it's nothing really super creative. It's not a lot of high
no.
leverage passes. It's just always really smart passes at the right time. He's just, he's the glue. He's just there filling it in. It's perfect.
Yeah. Well, and I did say he was a creative player earlier. I agree with what you're saying. The passes that he made were not necessarily um, well, sometimes he wasn't finding like those advanced reads or anything like that, but he would just do funky stuff, like angle. I don't know, turn his body the opposite way coming off of a screen and shovel a pass out of that. And it's very, I don't know, just kind of some unconventional stuff.
Yeah, he was certainly a fun player that to watch. You know, I watched the game against Phoenix in the finals with another passing big that we will be probably mentioning next, actually. But that was the game, 3 overtime game. Gar Heard's shot heard around the world. Just the entire game, he was just going and going and going, and just a really fun player to watch in general. So shall we move on to the next player up on this list?
Just one more thing. I really like Marc Gasol, but I prefer Dave Cowens.
I agree. I mean, Marc Gasol's someone we probably will talk about because he is actually a pretty good passer.
He deserves to
But
be. Yeah, of course.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, I prefer Cowens. Peak for peak, career for career.
I do
So
too.
yep. So I think the next one actually we'll save the next one. I was gonna say we'll talk about the guy I was saying from the '76 finals, but I almost skipped over this guy, Sam Lacey. What do you guys think about slamming Sam Lacey?
Really good outlet passer. Really good passing. Almost from like the top of the key, so he'd be really interesting to watch in today's league. Just like Kareem, really good at finding cutters. A decent movement passer, but not fantastic in that regard. Really works as a hub of an offense, but also just fits next to another really just high creating point guard. Um, yeah, he is one of my favorite, I guess, unsung players in league history. Um, yeah, just he's actually somebody very comparable to who we just mentioned, Marc Gasol.
It's
Yes.
actually
Yep.
a good comp, really. So
He's very like unheralded to me for sure. I you know watching him, he's just very smart out there. He has good vision, really good at working in the high post area. Finding cutters, dumping passes down low.
He's someone that just he doesn't try to do too much.
Yep. Yep. And I
that's
think that's incredibly valuable.
yeah.
There's a passer that I've watched frequently recently that is going to be in that same vein, where it's like it's not like anything. He's not trying to do anything crazy, but the passes are routinely smart and they're routinely crisp. So
He's got those. You don't see them anymore. You really only see it if you watch a lot of old games. But the hook pass, like that's what he's
Ah, I love
throwing
the
over
hook
the
pass. I
top.
love it.
Oh man, he's throwing the
oh for
hook
sure.
pass from the top of the key to cutters coming in the low post. So in this was a play apparently. You don't really. I don't notice it in the modern game, but man, you see it in all the clips from the 50s, a lot of them, and then up through
Like I
the
said, that was
70s.
one of my favorite plays watching Bill
Um,
Russell. I love his hook passes.
yeah, man, where
Yeah.
they just you have someone at the high post, and then someone comes and sets a back screen for somebody else who's roughly at the top of the key, and then that hook passes there over the top to the cutter, and oh man, you can see that play run so many times in old games. The Cincinnati Royals did it a lot, and well, Yeah, that's it. Well, okay, Lacey didn't play for the Cincinnati Royals. I guess it was still that same franchise by that point, so they must have kept that same playbook because yeah, he did a lot of those passes.
Yeah, he was just I feel like he saw things that his teammates really didn't. There was one specific play um against the Pacers in 1979. I think it was the last game of the year. The Pacers had Alex English, Billy Knight, some other players too. I can't remember off the top of my head. Um, but Bill Robinzine was under the basket, and Lacey, because he's got good vision, looked and saw, the opening right under the basket, and Robinzine turned the complete opposite way, and Lacey ended up throwing it to absolutely nobody. So I feel like that shouldn't be a knock against him. It should be a knock against the fact that his teammates didn't really see that. And yeah, I think he has really good vision. Some of the best vision of these passing bigs that we've covered so far.
I agree with that.
Yeah, he's up there.
Well, shall we move on to our?
No, but just one more thing. I have Sam Lacey's rookie card. His rookie card.
Well, that's nice. That's fun.
Yeah.
I've actually seen Sam Lacey mentioned a bunch on Twitter lately. There was somebody who started watching some older film and was tweeting out footage of Sam Lacey passing, and it was good to see him getting some attention because yeah, he's one of the more underrated players I think in league history. He's not like an amazing scorer or anything, but a really good defender, really good passer.
He's underrated offensively and defensively and was not recognized for either.
Nope.
Yeah. Is that rookie card 1972?
Sam. Yes, 72, 73.
Okay, that's a fantastic
Nice
set of rookies. Anyway.
Yeah. So moving on, we have some.
Oh, and no, I'm sorry. It was the year before, 71, 72.
Okay.
That was the first
Right.
year without the high tops.
Yeah, the tall boys. Okay.
Okay. So
Great wilt card
moving
from that
on.
set. Just throwing that.
No.
Wilt's a passing big. Yeah, probably my favorite wilt card from that set. It's great.
Wilt's,
background.
Yeah, Wilt,
really cool.
Wilt is indeed a passing big. So moving on to we'll actually cover two here because they kind of operated in the same way for the same team. So we'll talk about Alvin Adams and Rich Kelly. First off, Rich Kelly, man, he had it going on. He had a good look to him. What do you guys think about the stuff that Alvin Adams and Rich Kelly did in Phoenix?
Well, I mean, they ran them out of the high post primarily, and I think that's a big. I mean, Alvin Adams always was in Phoenix with that system, I guess, but Rich Kelly wasn't always. And when he goes to Phoenix, you see that change, and his assist numbers kind of bump up a lot. But yeah, Phoenix was like really ahead of the times as far as using a big man as a passing hub from the top of the key. And I don't know if that's because they had some undersized centers or whatever, or if that's just what they like to do. Because Rich Kelly's not a small guy, and maybe it's just I don't know. Maybe that's one reason they went after him was because he had some of those skills that they thought they could use in their system. I don't know, but but Phoenix liked to use run Alvin Adams off of high screens a lot, and he would. Typically, if that shot was open, from 17, 18 feet, he was going to take it, but he was also incredibly good at, putting off of that to zip a pass down low to somebody. It made really good, quick decisions as far as, whether to pass or shoot like that. Alvin Adams is a really, really good touch passer. Not such a great outlet passer, but he could handle and get push the ball up a little bit in transition.
He was definitely more of a transition passer than an outlet passer. He definitely liked to control the ball sometimes and push it up court and then make a pass for a layup or something like that.
Whereas
so, yeah,
Kelly
I saw that
on the opposite end actually was more of an outlet passer. Not that it was necessarily a specialty, but yes, when compared to Adams, yeah, he was better.
Makes sense. He's much bigger, more classic center in that way.
Yeah, he's more comparable to like a Boerwinkle. Kelly didn't move a lot. He
Right.
moved more than Boerwinkle, but
He did.
same vein.
Kelly had some really crisp passes in the game that I watched of him. He was
He was a very
smooth.
quick passer, very hard
Mhm.
passer.
Yes. Whereas Adams was more like gosh, I don't even know who to compare Adams to. Adams, I guess, is more in that Connie Hawkins vein of where, it's more movement based passing. More, transition stuff, perimeter stuff.
Yeah,
I don't know what you guys think.
comes to him a lot differently. I mean, the main difference is Adams is not like creating a whole lot from nothing, where Connie can, he's got so much gravity because Connie had more moves than he knew what to do with practically. So, he was leveraging that for a lot more. Alvin Adams is more of a, I think much more of a system guy. So, you're running those plays, and Adams knows, he's got these 4 reads or whatever. So, and when he playing for that same team and that same system as long as he did, like, when you didn't have that kind of turnover, like, you knew where your guys were going to be, and, they knew where you wanted them to be, and where everybody wanted to receive the ball and all that stuff. So
Adams was really good at just kind of feeling the momentum and then using that to kind of find the right pass. So, like, as Ian pointed out with transition, it's just he's able to just like move with the offense, and then it's really smooth. I like it. I like it a lot.
yeah.
Once again, whereas with Rich Kelly, it was almost kind of like just a different tone to the offense. More of just a slower half court set motion around him.
Yeah. Yep, for sure.
That's a good point. What you say about the letting the defense kind of, reading the momentum and all that, because there's especially some of those smaller passing centers. It seems like a lot of them have a knack for, like, when they get the ball down low, there's being undersized, especially if there's a good rim protector there, it's not necessarily a safe shot for you to go up right away. So they'll kind of, do that hesitation. And, Issel was a master at it. Make you think he's going to go, except Issel would fake you and then end up getting the shot anyway. But like an Alvin Adams or a Dave Cowens, will kind of wait just that half second for the defensive guy to get too close, and then he's zipping a pass right around him to the power forward who's under the basket also.
Whereas, since you brought up Hawkins, I mean, he was someone who was kind of creating those opportunities just from the threat of driving, slashing, his ability to just get to the basket. I mean, it was pretty terrifying. Yeah. So Adams doesn't have that ability.
Yeah, Adams is not much of a scorer.
But in fairness, like, that's what separates Connie from most of the guys on this list, because most bigs are not able to do that.
Yeah, well, and also, I mean, Hawkins, like, a lot of this is really perimeter based. Yes, he had a whole lot of passing around the post, but he was still somebody who would create from the perimeter, just like Julius Erving.
Mm-hmm. Yes, for sure. I was actually just looking at my notes. At the starting lineup of this game, it was the game 2 of the Western Conference semifinal in 1982 of the Suns versus the Lakers, and the Suns were kind of stacked. They had Kyle Macy, Dennis Johnson, Truck Robinson, Alvin Adams, Rich Kelly, Larry Nance Sr., and Walter Davis. Larry Nance Sr. and Walter Davis coming off the bench. So they kind of were even though, like, Adams is not the biggest guy, they were kind of running big. With Robinson, Adams, and Kelly almost being like 3 centers.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't Dudley Bradley on that team?
He was, yes.
You didn't mention him.
Can you name anybody? Can you name anybody else?
Alvin Scott.
Yes. There you go.
That's all I can think of off the top of my head.
Well, there's Joel Kramer, Jeff Cook, and
Jeff Cook.
Craig. Yeah. And Craig Diekma. I think that's how you pronounce it.
I'm not saying the other way.
All
We're
right.
stretching past my abilities with that one.
So quickly before we move on to the final guy that I think we will probably want to spend a little bit of time on, I just wanted to
Yes,
mention.
Ian. I do have Alvin Adams rookie card. I do.
Nice. I feel like you have everybody we've listed so far, their rookie card.
He doesn't
I'm not gonna
have a
lie.
Bill Russell rookie card.
Not yet.
No, I do not.
Not yet. I know.
Not yet. Yeah. So before we move on to the next guy, I just wanted to mention like a few honorable mentions almost. Somebody that was pretty good defensively, was more of like a transition based passer, Gus Johnson. I don't know if you guys, think of him as a big, but he did have some good passing skills.
I mean, if Connie Hawkins fits, Gus Johnson kind of fits the bill as well.
Yeah.
Mm.
You want to talk about Gus for a little bit, or do you want to just leave it at that?
Well, I mean, yeah, a whole lot of transition passing, really good touch passing. Somebody who would drive from the perimeter and kind of create passes that way, but he is just he's not creating near the amount of opportunities that Connie Hawkins is. Definitely more of a role player with his connective tissue passing, which is always good to have. Reminds me a lot of Andre Iguodala, just far less playmaking volume.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think he
Gus
plays a
was
little
an
bigger,
amazing
though.
defender.
Oh yeah. Oh
Yes.
yes, for sure.
Yeah, Gus was a
If we're going to
quite the
talk
good
defensively, that's far different. That's
yes.
a lot more
Yeah.
fun too.
He's defending 5 positions. Yeah.
Somebody I wanted to mention quickly too was Red Kerr. I disregarded him last episode because I hadn't watched him. So I'm gonna come back around and say I'm sorry, Red Kerr. You are actually a pretty good passer. You were doing some creative stuff that I don't think your teammates were picking up on at the time. So kudos to you. You were a heck of a passer doing, similar stuff to Maurice Stokes. So definitely a shout out to Red Kerr. Great passer.
You're here.
Another one I think we should mention quickly is Bob Lanier. I don't know if you guys have anything to say about
sure.
Bob Lanier.
Bob Lanier definitely deserves to be talked about.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to talk about him for a little bit?
Yeah. Lanier liked to kind of back down to the basket and work in that way, which with him, like he would kind of like almost like a wraparound pass to cutters, and sometimes it was basically like a no-look pass. It's not something that you saw a lot of from some of these other bigs. I mean, like Dave Cowens would do it, but Bob Lanier did it with even more frequency, and it's just something that I feel is kind of missing from today's game. We don't see anything like that anymore, and well, like Jokic, but it's almost like a lost art with Lanier.
Yeah, there's unfortunately not a lot of peak Lanier footage. So, but I seem to remember a lot of like he had a lot of moves like starting out with his back to the basket and would have a move that would take him to kind of the middle of the paint because he was kind of he had a good hook shot. That was kind of the he liked to use.
He had a good drop step that he would use to leverage into good passing.
Yeah,
he also had a good jumper. He had some range.
And that was another thing. I know you hate that Drazen did it, but Lanier would almost kind of like fake up for a jumper and then turn it into a pass when somebody's cut into the basket. When Lanier does it, it works.
Well, Drazen, not to go down the Drazen rabbit hole again, but when Drazen did it, he would do it, and it wasn't like where he was in the middle of a shot,
right?
Saw a cutter at the last second. He would just do it,
right?
Like to like a basic pass to guy 5 feet from him. It made no sense.
Yeah, that's the difference. I mean, we're talking about there, Lanier or, well, I mean, if you're saying that Lanier premeditated he did jump to pass, then that's interesting. I'll have to go back and revisit that. I would be surprised because that's not usually
faking a jumper that he turned into a pass as opposed to just jumping
Okay, I see
into
what
a
you're saying.
pass.
Okay, because that's dicey for a guy that size. You got to be
Oh,
really
for sure.
nimble. So, okay,
Yeah.
I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah, where you just kind of give them that head fake, and you're everything about you're up on your toes, and everything about it says you're going into the shot, and then just at the last second, yeah, look it off.
At times it almost looks like he's just finding a way to angle the pass over the defender's head. But they're already in the position, thinking they're going to have to block a shot. So it's a fun way to kind of warp the defense.
Hmm.
Yeah, for sure. I love Bob Lanier. Watching him, I mean, even after he was, pretty much injured, and he went to Milwaukee. I think it was towards the end of his career. He was still very useful. Still a very good scorer. Could pass, could play defense. Um, you know, he was really fun to watch. That whole game, that whole series. I wish there was more of that series online. I saw Game 7, between Milwaukee and Seattle. I think. I can't quite remember the year. It was 1980, between the Sonics and Milwaukee Bucks. So I got to see actually another guy we'll mention here in a second. But yeah, it was a fun series. Really liked what I saw from Lanier. And the other guy that I was mentioning is Jack Sikma. You know, he's not. He's another one. He's not gonna like wow you with these brilliant passes like we see from Jokic or
I
Connie
mean,
Hawkins or
it's
any
not
of
really
those
fair
guys.
to throw Jokic in at all. And his passes
I
are
know,
just
I
a
know,
different
I know.
level.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. But you know, he's just a really good connective guy. He makes the smart reads. He's not. I don't think he's really creating at the same level as some of these other guys, but he certainly had the skill and was a very good and smart passer.
Well, and he was able to leverage what he was a good scorer, so
Yep,
and
exactly.
jump shooter. So he was able to leverage that into, I mean, basically, it was easy to sell the defense on his shot. So he could turn that into an open pass sometimes.
And the thing is, like as you said again, his passing wasn't necessarily creative, but his offense down in the post really was, and he was able to use
Oh yeah.
that to just find the smart and correct pass.
For sure. Also just a knockdown shooter. He was a really good shooter.
He didn't need a whole lot of space either.
Oh,
No, no. Um, Someone I did like in that game, and I'm not gonna go on for him about, but was Lonnie Shelton. Man, he was a menace out there. That has nothing to do with his passing, but he was in that game and against the Bucks, and man, he was
He's,
everywhere.
he's a
yep.
fun player.
I love Lonnie Shelton. I don't love his passing. I love him.
No, his passing isn't good. I just wanted to give Lonnie Shelton a shout out because he's a really fun defender. Um, I think we
What about
covered pretty much.
what about another ABA guy,
Oh boy,
George
who are you gonna
McGinnis?
mention?
I was wondering.
Oh
I
yeah,
was
sure.
hoping you were
Okay, yeah.
alluding to him earlier, Ian, but I guess you weren't.
I probably wasn't. I actually forgot about George there.
How can you
Yeah,
forget about
George
George
McGinnis.
McGinnis? Ooh.
Man, you know, I I
Leading
actually like.
scorer of the 1977 76ers. That team had Dr. J.
They did. He was a good player. His passing, the execution wasn't always there, but the vision certainly was. He knew what he was seeing. It was just a matter of getting those passes off. It just seemed like his processing speed was a little slow on that end. But in transition, it felt like to me that he he didn't think too much, and when he would do those passes, it was a lot better. Um, Another thing too I noticed is, and I wanted to briefly mention this about him, it didn't seem like a lot of his teammates were moving that much when he would have the ball, and he would just try to force this tight pass in because he has no other option, and it will result in a turnover, and he has historically high turnover numbers, but yeah, I
This was
mean,
the 76ers you were watching, right?
oh no, I watched a game in I watched an ABA
Oh,
game.
you did? You found a Pacers game?
I did,
Yeah.
yeah. There's actually a couple online.
Interesting. Okay. Well,
From the same series. So it was like Artis Gilmore against George McGinnis. It was pretty fun.
interesting. Okay. Yeah, I'll have to try and find that one because I was going to say maybe McGinnis had a habit of doing a little bit too much, and
Yep.
I know the 76ers, when he was with them, had a horrible tendency to do the exact same thing. So I wonder how much of that is, all right, George is going to do his thing, and maybe he's going to fling it this way, but it doesn't seem like a happy offense, even though he himself is
No,
a fun player.
yeah, he's a very fun player. He's a really good scorer. You know, he's a good defender too. He's a really good defender. I think I should mention that. He also had some range. He would definitely take threes. That was definitely a part of his game.
Mhm.
Um,
One-handers.
you know, yeah, those one-handed jump shots were actually kind of cool. And yes, I will continue to slander Marcus Camby's jump shot.
You really shouldn't, man.
McGinnis's is better.
Okay, no, that's
saying.
just bull.
What?
I'm just trying to provoke you. But yeah, I mean, it just seemed like there was a lot of trying to force these passes in, a lot of just bad execution. The vision was there though. I don't think that you can't say that he didn't have the vision, because he would see somebody move and it was like, okay, I have like a split second to get this pass in, and he would force it, and it would result in a turnover. So
Well, that was a part of that was kind of the problem with McGinnis. He wanted to be like a one-man offense and was almost treated as a one-man offense. So of course there are going to be a whole lot of problems from that.
Yeah,
Yep.
they seem a little dysfunctional.
So we have a decent amount of time left. I think we saved the best for last today.
What?
What? He is the best for last for today.
I'm not even sure who you're talking about now.
I'm talking about Bill. I'm talking about Bill Walton. This is somebody I think we can talk for a while about, in the way we talked about Wilt in the last episode. What do you guys want to tackle first with Walton?
Well, I know you got here. I'll go first. I mean, I don't know if I'm the highest on him. Maybe I am. I don't know. I don't. There are
Highest,
definitely.
huh?
There are definitely. Yeah. Well, okay. So Walton is. He's really, really good at finding the pass in tight windows. Like, I mean, they're all tight windows for these guys for the most part, but like Walton was really good at making these, just throwing darts to guys, and he was a truly, for the most part, a pass first center. He was looking to move the offense, and I think had enough of his, his own scoring was serviceable enough to keep the defense honest there. Whether that's scoring down low or stretching with the jump shot, because he was not in the low post as much as he was, I would say, higher up. So, he. My criticism is a lot of times like he just wasn't. I don't know if it's of him or of the team, but for a guy who is as skilled a passer as he was and talked about the way he is as a passing big, it doesn't seem like he actually was initiating as much as you would maybe even want him to. There are a whole lot of plays I watch where he doesn't even come down and get into the offense, which I can't really figure out. But yeah, when he is finding guys, I agree. He's got, well, if this is what you're saying, Ian, he's got the best vision of anybody that we talked about so far. I will say, I believe that. Owen can
Debatable for me.
trash him now. And
No.
I don't think Owen's gonna trash him.
I really want to hear what Ian says. Because Ian, you've been watching a whole lot of Walton and all of these players really recently, so I do want to hear what you have to say. Putting in the legwork.
Yeah, I am putting in a lot of time into researching these guys, because I want to be able to sound like I know what I'm talking about instead of making stuff up. Walton, yes, I think he does have the best vision. I think that him and Lacey are up there for me for vision in this specific sect of players.
You have Lacey over like Kareem, Wilt, Russell, even Borwinkle.
In this episode today.
Okay, so
I have him over Kareem. Yes.
Interesting. Okay. You don't like the goggles, huh?
I do like Kareem. Let's not. No, we're not going to do that.
Said goggles, goggles, not Kareem.
With Walton, I am going to kind of echo what Chris said. I don't understand why he just wouldn't come back on offense sometimes. Like, this is 1977 Walton. This is peak Bill Walton, champion Bill Walton. And I saw numerous times where he just wasn't even in the frame, and it was just 4-on-5.
Yeah.
I mean, come on,
And
like the guy could
like,
barely move, like for years. And even in college, he was injured when he was born. I mean, what do you expect from him? I mean, he's obviously making the most of what he can.
I just think that his flashiness of his passes in general have gotten him overblown by some people. You know, he had a great peak. I'm not gonna disregard that. It was a really good peak. But I just, there's something about his passing that it hasn't really clicked with me yet, where it's like, I don't know, like he's got the vision, but I feel like at times it was just like he wasn't creating anything.
Well, it's just
he would make a
Oh, go ahead.
No, he would make a pass, and it just didn't seem like it was actually a good pass. Like, it was like, oh, it was a really crisp pass that, looked pretty, but it didn't seem like it was actually creating a shot. It just seemed like he was getting the ball off. That's kind of what I mean there.
I can see that, and I think kind of what stands out with Walton is, I mean, he is somebody who draws a lot of attention, which may seem surprising. He didn't necessarily have a deep scoring game, but he did have the threat of a jumper. But as we talked about, as you said, you're watching and it's like he's not even in the frame.
Nope.
He's not moving a whole lot with his passes. His passes are, when he's creating or finding a pass, doing something on offense, he's stationary a lot of the time.
Yes.
But that also shows just how skilled he was. His passes were insanely skilled. Just being able to stand there and the passes, the windows that he's passing through, I mean, that is extremely impressive. So that tied with his vision, I mean, that is why his passing is so valuable.
Yeah. So, and that's why the reputation follows him, I'm sure. I mean, obviously, because it was good enough, I mean, everything, he won a championship. So, it clearly worked in that way, I guess, but it feels weird for me to envision that as like, he is, running this offense or spearheading it, because that's not what it feels like. It's more that he's, whatever percentage of the time that he is getting the ball, he's making some cool plays, and they're getting some highlights. So, I think there's I probably believe there's more value in some of that stuff than a lot of our analytics brothers do, just because plays like that can change the tide of a game, swing momentum and stuff like that. So there's value in it. And when you know somebody's capable of something, it's like Bill Russell's defense. Like, okay, he's not going to block every shot, but he could block almost any one that he wanted to. So it's kind of the same thing with Bill Walton on offense to me. It's like he's threatening to make that pass, but he just has to come down and get into the freaking offense in the first place. Or I don't know.
So a good comparison to make is Walton's offense, especially in that system, considering it is very similar, is like Wilt with the 67 76ers. He's working out of the high post. He is the hub on offense. It's just Walton was able to kind of step it up maybe just a little bit.
Yeah, he was. And I
That does not mean he's a better player. He was not.
The 76ers were probably running more volume through Wilt.
They were running more everything
were.
through Wilt.
Yes, so
for sure.
that's
Walton,
the main,
it's also kind of just a carryover, I think, in the sense that, I mean, that like this is a Jack Ramsey system, so it's
well,
more,
and
more
look,
about the egalitarian
and
style.
Walton, yes, and Walton's got that wooden influence where Wilt has exactly the opposite. He's got that massive narcissistic hero thing. And Bill Walton was pretty much exactly the opposite. He was all about his teammates and everything.
Oh yeah, I want to disagree with something here. I think Chris said earlier that he wished Walton almost initiated the offense more. I disagree. I don't think that's what his MO really was as a passer. I feel like he was, by all accounts, a passing hub where you've had to have almost like another, like a point guard with him that could also create. I just don't feel like Walton is that guy where he's going to be
That's fair.
initiating a whole offense.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. I just think it need to run through him a little bit more. More passing opportunities, I guess, just because he's making better passes than most of those guys. So it's like
At the same time, he's still actually more of a scoring threat than most of his teammates. In fact, all of them.
That's true too.
Yeah,
that is something that I agree that should have been. You should have taken advantage of that more. Giving him the ball.
Yeah, to be honest, that's my biggest surprise out of him. I mean, if you look at the difference between him in college and pro, that's probably the biggest shock. Because I mean, you think of the what was it, 21 of 22 field goal game in the championship or whatever. So it's like and he was a very proficient scorer in college. So it is odd that it didn't translate exactly the same to the NBA.
No, and I do have to wonder like how much of him not totally getting back on offense in some of these games affected his touches. I feel like it actually affected it a lot.
Right, that's what I mean. Like if you're not even going to come back and get into the and set up in the high post to receive a pass, then I don't know.
Him and
maybe it was his way of trying to create space. I don't know.
I mean, like he's kind of like, especially with transition, he's a trailer. He has a good jump shot. I mean, every truckin' needs a trailer, right?
Alrighty then.
That was hilarious.
I was gonna say that Dave Cowens and Bill Walton are almost opposites, polar opposites in how they play offense. It's like Cowens is constantly moving, whereas Walton doesn't always get back.
I mean, that is kind of just the MO for Walton. He's very deliberate and he's supposed to just pick you apart. So.
And yeah, well, I think we should wrap up here.
No, what? I do want to just say one other thing about Walton is, I mean, there have been every passer that we've talked about in the past 2 episodes. They all have kind of good vision, quick decision making. Like I said, that was one of my things that I touched on with Russell. Really good, quick decision making. Walton is the first one we've talked about that is actually somewhat close to Jokic in that regard. Very quick decision making on the pass.
Okay.
I can see that. Yeah.
So far, I'm gonna go. Yeah, I guess I'll go Walton. I can go Walton on that. I can agree with that.
Let me ask you, Owen, do you have a Bill Walton rookie card?
I do indeed, Chris.
Of course you do.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. By extent, I said he didn't have a Bill Russell rookie card, but that does mean that he does also have a Wilt Chamberlain rookie card too. So, hey, real quick though, do we have a couple minutes? Just a couple.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
So so I looked up some 2K passer ratings here. So I just want to go over some of the guys that we talked about.
We are a deep diving stats podcast here.
And see where we are with some of these. So, okay. So in this, what I've done is just average. So there's a playmaking kind of attribute category, I guess. And it's not, I didn't use that whole thing because it includes ball handling and something else. So this is just the attributes that are related to passing. So it's pass accuracy, pass IQ, and pass vision. So Bill Russell comes out at a 76. His highest is pass IQ by a mile. It's 94. But they think his accuracy and his vision are just kind of ho-hum. So he's in at a 76. I don't necessarily know that I even disagree with that.
Well, with the vision, I sure do.
I know you would.
Yeah.
So let's go. Okay, next is Will. Where do you think he came out?
79.
Very close.
Go
ahead.
I'll go 82.
Okay, no, he actually
82.
He actually came out 77.
Oh wow.
So just barely above.
That's interesting.
Bill Russell's overall playmaking score is higher though, just because they rate him higher moving with the ball, which I don't disagree with either. Okay, next, Wes Unseld.
52.
Oh man. Yeah, I think he's going to be low.
No.
I think they'll have him like.
Is he going to be like 88 or something?
It's crazy. Oh, get out of here, man. Okay, he's in it. He's at 87. 87. He's the highest of any of the guys we've talked about so far. They way overrated him.
Yeah, that's and not to his outlet passing was 88 worthy probably, but everything else no.
Yes, much closer to the mean. Yeah, I agree. Okay, Kareem. This is gonna just infuriate you, Owen.
Oh shit. I'm not even gonna try.
Oh no.
80?
Oh no. Oh no. He's in at a 64.
What?
64.
How?
He's got a 52 on pass accuracy. Yeah, I disagree with that.
Yeah, there's a lot to disagree with.
Yeah, that's pretty brutal. All right. Next, George McGinnis is in.
Like 30.
At a 60.
Ooh.
Okay.
And got brutalized.
Man.
He's got a 58 on. He's got a 58 on pass IQ. Okay. All right, Alvin Adams. They jacked this up. They don't have Alvin Adams right on a lot of ratings, by the way.
85. 85.
65.
Much lower. 57. He's the lowest one so far. Yeah, they got him at a 35 on pass accuracy. 35. 2K. If anybody's listening, this is just egregious. You gotta fix Alvin Adams.
That is egregious.
It doesn't make sense.
Alvin Adams, I'll tell you right now, Alvin Adams is in my top 10 from the passing bigs. You got to fix that. He absolutely is a very accurate passer.
Yeah, he's not above Oliver Miller, though, right?
No, of course not.
Okay.
No,
just got to be sure.
I don't know.
All right, and then the last one I've got here, because a lot of these guys are actually not in this year's version of the game,
yeah, of course,
is Bill Walton. So where do we think he comes in?
74.
On
80, 81.
You're closer. It's actually 85. They don't have him as high as Unseld, but
they have Unseld as a better passer.
Yeah,
than
they
Walton.
do.
That's funny.
They do, yeah.
Right.
So, as far as how they stack out with some of this next group of guys that we'll probably end up talking about, or once we get through the 90s, it'll be it gets more interesting. So, hold on, okay, I have Bob Lanier here, 67.
That seems fair.
It's fairer. It still seems a little low to me. I feel like he's probably 70, but yeah, we'll see.
Roughly around
off the
there.
top of my head, I'm thinking like 73, 74.
Yeah, I could live with that compared.
So his peak season.
Knowing
exactly.
Well, okay, look, what I've done is take the highest rated version of the guy in the game. So it'll either be like the all-time team version or the all-decade team or something like that. That's usually the version of the guy who gets in. So that's what I looked at for this. So.
Well, that was cool. I think it'll be interesting. Maybe at the end we can go through and see how we match up in terms of what.
That's what I was.
That would be fun.
I think my passer rating's probably like 79.
I think mine's probably higher than that.
not a better passer than me,
I
bro.
don't know where my pass. I can't gauge.
You're the shooter,
the
Ian.
2K
You're not a passer.
That's not true. I'm more of a passer than a shooter. But anyways, this was a fun episode. We got to talk about a lot more guys this time than the last ones. We got through a bunch. So, well, sorry for the delay, of course. We will be uploading every 2 weeks for this podcast series. Chris was on vacation, so we took a week off.
Way to go, Chris.
So until next
Yeah, just so you guys know, I'm
Yeah,
on
Chris.
vacation a lot.
Oh,
Not as much as I want
well,
to
there
be,
you
though.
go.
So
All
we
right.
could podcast every
All right.
day if I was on vacation all the time.
There you go. Well, until next time, guys, we will see you. Peace.